Forget everything you think you know about Cary Grant. What if I told you Hollywood's suavest leading man, idolized by millions, built his entire identity on a cover-up that Tinseltown protected for decades? Why did he famously say, "Even I want to be Cary Grant"? Today we're ripping off the velvet mask, because the truth, it's stranger, darker, and way more fascinating than you ever imagined. The birth of an alias, Archibald Leach's vanishing act. Cary Grant wasn't always Cary Grant. He started out as Archibald Leach, a poverty-stricken kid in Bristol, England, with nothing but a broken home and a boatload of trauma. At just 11, his father told him his mother was dead. That was a lie. She'd been locked away in an asylum, a betrayal that haunted him for life. To escape, Archie literally ran away and joined a troupe of acrobats, learning to mask pain with laughter and spectacle. When Hollywood called, he didn't just change his name, he nuked his past. Studios told him, Archibald Leach will never be a star. So he became Cary Grant, mastering an American-British accent and crafting every wink, smile, and step like a magician. Never real, always a show. He said it himself, "I had to invent myself." Was Cary Grant the greatest acting performance of all time? According to Hollywood insiders, even Grant never truly believed his own myth. And yet every moment on screen was a calculated rebellion against the wounds of a forgotten childhood. Talk about method acting. Grant's first great role was faking it so well, the world begged for more. Hollywood's best-kept secret, the man in the Malibu house. Now buckle up, because the next secret nearly blew up the golden age. For over a decade, Grant lived with another actor, Randolph Scott, in a sprawling Malibu home. And no, they weren't just roommates. They cooked, vacationed, shared expenses, posing for glossy domestic bliss spreads in fan magazines that made studios break out in hives. The press dubbed it Hollywood's most unusual romance, hinting at everything, confirming nothing. Studios panicked. Executives orchestrated fake romances and publicized new girlfriends to fix their image. But behind closed doors, Grant and Scott were inseparable. The town whispered, but nobody dared print the truth. Some called it a romance. Others insisted it was a survival pact between two lonely outsiders, each scarred by the system, both desperate for belonging. Grant never confirmed or denied a thing. Randolph Scott went on to marry and build his own legend. But decades later, biographers, directors, and even Grant's own daughter would admit, whatever it was the kind of bond Hollywood didn't want you to see. 5 marriages, 0 happy endings. The turbulent pursuit of normal. 5 marriages, 0 fairy tales. Every time Cary Grant tied the knot, the world watched for the perfect Hollywood ending. Instead, every union ended in heartbreak, scandal, or a fast escape divorce. His first wife, Virginia Cherrill, iconic as the blind flower girl in City Lights, claimed Grant was controlling, jealous, and impossible to please. His second wife, Barbara Hutton, was one of the richest women on earth, but together they became tabloid fodder, Cash and Cary. Their marriage was a photo op for headlines, doomed by wealth, attention, and Grant's intense need for privacy. Betsy Drake, wife number 3, introduced Grant to psychotherapy and controversial treatments, trying to heal his scars. But even LSD therapy couldn't keep them together. Diane Cannon, 3 decades his junior, called him the last real love of her life, but left, haunted by his relentless emotional walls. His final marriage to Barbara Harris, nearly 50 years his junior, finally gave him peace, but not the perfect family Grant once dreamed of. What was he searching for? According to his daughter, Jennifer, love always felt temporary, like something that could vanish overnight. And maybe that's the real Hollywood tragedy. LSD Therapy and the search for the real Cary Grant. Talk about a plot twist. In the buttoned-up 1950s, Cary Grant became the secret pioneer of Hollywood's mind-bending therapy movement. At the peak of his stardom, he underwent over 100 sessions of LSD-assisted psychotherapy, hoping to shatter his inner barriers and finally meet his true self. This wasn't some rock star rebellion. It was medicine, legal, and run by doctors. Grant wasn't shy about it either. He called LSD his greatest discovery, crediting it for helping him confront the abandonment, fear, an emptiness that ruled his private life. Directors and co-stars were stunned. The studios, terrified the world would find out their golden boy was experimenting with mind expansion. Critics dismissed it as midlife crisis madness, but years later, doctors would call Grant's journey groundbreaking, Hollywood's most famous man becoming his own patient. And the result? A slightly softer, gentler Grant, willing to walk away from fame for the sake of his only child. But did it bring him peace? That's the question Grant carried to his grave. The Oscar snub heard round the world. Ready for a Hollywood injustice? Cary Grant starred in more than 70 films, more classics than most actors dream of. But the Academy? They shut him out. No Best Actor statue, no recognition at the peak of his power. Even after unforgettable performances in Bringing Up Baby, Notorious, and North by Northwest, Grant went home empty-handed. It took until 1970 for the Oscars to throw him a bone, an honorary statue for lifetime achievement. But insiders always said it was too little, too late. Martin Scorsese called Grant's style the art of obscuring truth with elegance, maybe too slippery for the Academy's taste. Meanwhile, moviegoers and critics kept voting him into greatest star of all time lists, year after year. Grant himself was nonchalant, joking, "I'd rather have all that lovely cash." But for fans, it's still Hollywood's most ridiculous snub, a slap in the face to the man who redefined what a leading man could be. Even now, Oscar owes him. Hollywood's real James Bond. Here's a wild one. Before Sean Connery, Cary Grant was the first man asked to play James Bond. Producers of Dr. No wanted the original gentleman spy, the template for suave danger, the king of cool. Grant turned them down flat. Why? He told friends, "I'm too old to jump over furniture." But the real reason? Grant refused to risk his carefully constructed image with a franchise he couldn't control. He'd spent decades building the perfect mask and wasn't about to let Bond's violence or bedroom antics muddy his legacy. Some called it vanity, others perfectionism, but no one denied his influence. Sean Connery studied Grant's every move, and directors admit Grant's mix of sophistication and mystery set the standard for every 07 that followed. Even Daniel Craig cited Grant as the original model for Bond. The greatest Bond who never was? Maybe. But Grant's refusal became its own legend, a mark of total self-control in an industry built on chaos. The mystery of Randolph Scott, back to the Malibu House, the secret that just won't quit. For over a decade, tabloids ran, "Are they or aren't they?" headlines, and studio fixers worked overtime. Were Cary Grant and Randolph Scott secret lovers, best friends, or just two wounded souls hiding from a hostile world? Grant's daughter, Jennifer, insists she never saw any evidence, and Scott married twice. But their domestic photos, two men lounging in robes, walking on the beach, laughing over breakfast, remain some of the most suggestive images in old Hollywood. Biographers call their connection an open secret, and a few insiders claim the industry protected them out of respect and fear. Whatever the truth, the Malibu House became a symbol, a refuge for stars who didn't fit, a place where men could drop the mask for a few fleeting hours. And while the public will probably never know the full story, the myth of Grant and Scott continues to tantalize, making them the Golden Age's most enigmatic pair. The Sophia Loren affair. Cary Grant was never short of leading ladies, but Sophia Loren was the one who almost shattered his shell. During the filming of The Pride and the Passion in 1957, Grant, then 53, fell for the young Italian beauty, 30 years his junior. Grant wrote her love letters, proposed, and was absolutely smitten, but Loren, already involved with director Carlo Ponti, turned him down cold. The romance never went public, but crew and co-stars whispered about Grant's heartbreak and desperation on set. Even after the movie wrapped, Grant supposedly told friends, "I never truly fell in love again." This was no brief set fling. According to those close to him, Loren was the one woman who got past the actor's famous defenses. Years later, she would describe Grant as the most elegant man I ever knew, but always a little sad, always a little distant. For Grant, the rejection was another wound, A reminder that even Hollywood royalty couldn't script a happy ending. Hitchcock's Muse. When Alfred Hitchcock needed a leading man who could play both devil and angel, he called Cary Grant. Their four collaborations, Suspicion, Notorious, To Catch a Thief, and North by Northwest, pushed Grant into deeper, stranger territory than any other director dared. Hitchcock saw in Grant a charm so dazzling it could hide anything, including guilt, fear, even villainy. "You never quite know if he's being real," Hitch admitted. That ambiguity is what turned Grant into the master of psychological thrillers. In Notorious, his cold betrayal of Ingrid Bergman left audiences gasping. In North by Northwest, he redefined the action hero, sophisticated, hunted, never losing his cool. Critics called their collaborations a chess match of wit and danger. Audiences loved it. The films shattered box office records and earned a place in the National Film Registry. Yet after each shoot, Grant slipped back behind his velvet mask, never revealing what really haunted him. Maybe that's why Hitchcock called him the only actor I never figured out. The daughter who changed everything. Cary Grant waited until he was 62 to become a father, and from that moment, he was done with Hollywood. His daughter Jennifer says he took off the actor's hat and never looked back. Every film role, every deal, every public appearance took a back seat to parenthood. Grant became the doting dad he'd never had, giving Jennifer the stability and love he'd missed out on. They spent quiet days watching British comedies, making memories away from the spotlight. When Jennifer was asked about all the rumors swirling around her father, she replied, "If he was gay, I'd still be proud." But what I saw was a man who loved his daughter more than anything. Grant's last years were about redemption, not fame. He proved finally that being a legend on screen means nothing compared to being a legend at home. The most unexpected chapter of all? The happiest years of Cary Grant's life were the ones nobody saw. The studio system's dark hand. If you think studio contracts were just about money, think again. Cary Grant's private life was controlled down to the smallest detail. Publicists invented girlfriends, squashed rumors, and orchestrated photo ops to keep his image spotless. Grant wasn't alone. Golden Age Hollywood was a fortress, enforcing fake romances, punishing scandals, and paying hush money to keep secrets buried. Grant and others were forced to live double lives. Any slip threatened career death. Critics say Hollywood's moral code was the real villain of the Golden Age, leaving casualties in its wake. Behind every elegant tuxedo was a stack of studio memos and ironclad non-disclosure agreements. In the end, Grant mastered the game better than most, outlasting his rivals, outliving his critics, and taking most of his secrets with him. The question lingers: did Hollywood make Cary Grant a legend, or did it destroy the man behind the mask? A legend's lonely goodbye. Cary Grant died as privately as he lived. No splashy comeback, no final star turn. Just a quiet passing in Iowa, moments before he was set to go on stage and talk to fans, not as a character, but as himself. The news rocked the world. Hollywood lost its last true gentleman, and millions mourned. But as the tributes poured in, one detail was undeniable. Grant spent his last years far from Hollywood, choosing peace and family over applause. He left behind a legacy that was equal parts triumph and tragedy, mystery and mastery. For all the love, money, and fame, the real secret of Cary Grant's life was how alone he sometimes felt. Still haunted by a mother's absence, a father's lie, and a lifetime spent trying to be the man everyone else wanted to see. And that's the strangest twist of all. So what do you think? Was Cary Grant's biggest performance really just hiding the truth? Was he a victim of Hollywood's cruelty, or the genius who beat the system at its own game? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Do you buy the Randolph Scott romance? Or was it a brotherhood the world just didn't understand? And tell us, has Hollywood gotten any better at letting its stars live honestly? Smash that like, subscribe for more forbidden Hollywood stories, and remember, sometimes the legend is only half the story.